The morning began like every other. Alarms chimed. Kettles hissed. Children fought over cereal boxes. No one suspected the building had decided to betray them. At 7:12 a.m., Mrs. Ahmed reached for her front door, keys dangling in her hand. She twisted the knob. It didn't turn. Not locked. Gone. The familiar wooden frame was now a smooth, cold surface, seamless as polished stone. She blinked, pressed harder, and felt nothing but a chill that seeped into her palm. Down the hall, a courier tried the stairwell. He shoved his shoulder against the door. No hinges, no handle, just a wall where the exit had been. What the hell? His shout echoed through the corridor, drawing sleepy neighbors in slippers and robes. One by one, they tested their own doors and windows. One by one, they discovered the same impossible truth. Every exit had vanished. Phones came out. Calls rang once, then dissolved into static. Texts remained unsent, glowing with false hope. A plumber grabbed a wrench and attacked a window frame. Sparks flew. The metal bit into something harder than steel. Not even a scratch. Someone fetched a hammer, someone else a crowbar. The walls didn't crack, didn't dent, didn't even sound hollow. The smell of burnt toast hung in the air, absurd against the rising dread. Children whimpered. A dog barked until its voice broke. An elderly man pounded with both fists until blood streaked the unyielding surface. Panic began to spread like smoke. Maybe it's a prank, a teenager said, voice trembling. But who could stage a prank that erased doors overnight? Another neighbor whispered about gas leaks. Government experiments, alien traps. No explanation fit the seamless reality before their eyes. The building felt different, heavier, as though the very walls were listening. A faint vibration hummed beneath the floor, almost like a heartbeat. People backed away, suddenly aware that they stood inside something alive. Someone shouted for everyone to gather in the lobby. They obeyed, drawn by the need for answers, for comfort, for anything that would make sense. Faces pale, eyes wide, they formed a circle beneath the flickering light. No one spoke at first. The silence pressed down, thick and suffocating. Finally, Mrs. Ahmed whispered the question that clung to every mind. "If there's no way out," she said, her voice barely more than breath, "where exactly are we now?" No one answered. The hum beneath the floor deepened, a slow, deliberate pulse. The morning that began with ordinary alarms had turned into something unearthly. The building was no longer a place to live. It was a prison. Or worse, a predator. And as the sun climbed higher outside, if the sun even still existed, they realized they might already be cut off from the world beyond. The first screams erupted before noon. Someone in 3B hurled a chair at what had once been the main exit. The chair shattered. The wall remained flawless, smooth as poured glass. A maintenance worker swung a sledgehammer next. Sparks spat out like angry bees, but the barrier stayed unscarred. The sound rattled through the building, echoing in a way that felt deliberate, almost mocking. Neighbors crowded the hallway, their voices colliding, questions, curses, prayers. "It's a trick," one man shouted, sweat streaking his forehead. "Some construction mistake," another argued, though his eyes betrayed the lie. Phones rose like weapons. Calls failed. Texts floated in endless sending loops. A woman tried a video call. Her screen went black before connecting. No ring, no static, only silence. A group of young men tested the windows. They pried with crowbars, jammed screwdrivers into seams that no longer existed. Where frames had been, there was only a continuous bone-colored surface. The glass itself had vanished, replaced by a material colder than ice and harder than stone. They beat it until their knuckles split, leaving dark smears that the wall seemed to absorb. The disbelief became a living thing, buzzing under every breath. Parents clutched children. Couples argued in sharp whispers. Someone laughed, high, hysterical, until the sound broke into sobs. A teenager filmed with his phone, narrating each attempt to escape. desperate to prove this wasn't madness. But every clip froze midway, files corrupted as soon as he tried to play them back. By early afternoon, desperation turned to chaos. A man from the 6th floor sprinted through corridors, pounding each door, demanding answers no one had. Another resident dragged a fire extinguisher across the lobby and sprayed the wall, hoping chemicals might reveal a seam. The mist clung and dripped without effect, leaving only a metallic taste in the air. Arguments ignited. Who had noticed first? Who might have done this? Accusations flew: sorcery, government testing, revenge. Old grudges resurfaced like ghosts, unpaid rents. Midnight arguments, rumors of infidelity. Voices rose, overlapping until the lobby vibrated with fury. Someone shouted that they should break through the roof. Someone else screamed that the roof would be gone too. No one volunteered to check. Hours dragged, yet clocks contradicted each other. One wristwatch claimed it was 2:15. A wall clock insisted 5:40. Phones blinked random digits or none at all. Hunger sharpened tempers. The building's temperature shifted from sweltering to bone cold within minutes, as though mocking their every plan. Through it all, disbelief lingered like a stubborn fog. People still said, "When this is over," still promised to call loved ones later. But their eyes betrayed a growing truth. The outside world might already be unreachable. Panic had eaten through the thin fabric of reason, leaving only raw, quivering fear. In that thick, unrelenting dread, one thought pulsed louder than the rest. If no force on earth could open a door, then something not of earth must have closed them. By the second day, fear hardened into something sharper. Supplies became currency. Bottled water vanished first, claimed by families who locked their apartments and ignored the pounding fists of thirsty neighbors. The smell of stale air grew heavy, a damp mix of sweat, fear, and old cooking oil. The residents gathered in the lobby for a meeting that began as negotiation and ended as a battlefield. Voices cracked with exhaustion. "We share everything," one woman demanded, clutching a near-empty jug. "No hoarding." A man from the top floor barked back, "Find your own. I have kids." His words cut through the room like glass. Arguments flared in every corner. How to ration food, who would stand watch, whether they should search the sealed basement for hidden exits. Small alliances formed, fragile and shifting. Strangers who once nodded politely in hallways now whispered strategy in dark corners. Couples split into opposing camps. Old rivalries, petty noise complaints, disputed parking spots erupted into open hostility. Someone accused the landlord of knowing more than he admitted. He denied it, trembling, sweat soaking his collar. A teenager swore she heard him talking to someone through the vents. He swore back, veins rising in his neck. Sleep became rare. The fluorescent lights flickered without pattern, plunging the corridors into sudden darkness. Footsteps echoed when no one walked. Doors rattled though there was no wind. Whispers slithered through the air ducts. Too faint to understand, too close to ignore. Paranoia bloomed. Food fights turned physical. A woman guarding a bag of rice swung a broom at a man who tried to snatch it. Blood dotted the tiles. Children cried in corners, clutching stuffed animals that smelled of panic. Even the dog, once a cheerful presence, now growled at anyone who approached its owner. The building itself seemed to feed the tension. Hallways stretched a little longer each hour. Familiar turns led to unfamiliar dead ends. Apartment numbers shuffled as if the walls were playing a private game. Every misstep deepened mistrust. "You're leading us in circles," someone hissed when a volunteer patrol returned empty-handed. By the third night, the line between neighbor and enemy had blurred. A small group barricaded themselves inside the laundry room, claiming it was safer. Others began carving symbols into walls, desperate to mark their territory or to ward off whatever listened behind the plaster. What began as shared survival had rotted into tribal warfare. The building, silent and unyielding, watched its captives fracture. And as each argument escalated, as each friendship dissolved, one undeniable truth settled over them all. The real danger might no longer be the vanished doors or the unseen force outside, but the people trapped inside, with nowhere to run and nothing left to lose. By the fourth day, the building no longer obeyed the laws of space or time. Hallways that once measured a few meters stretched into endless corridors. A walk to the stairwell, what remained of it, took minutes longer each attempt. Doors that residents swore led to their own apartments opened onto unfamiliar rooms, bare and echoing as if the building were rearranging its insides for amusement. The lights played their own cruel games. Bulbs dimmed to a bruised blue, then blazed white-hot without warning. Shadows flickered in places no light touched. Shapes moved across ceilings like dark water, vanishing when stared at directly. A child insisted she saw a hand sliding along the wall, but when adults looked, there was nothing except faint indentations that faded before their eyes. Clocks betrayed them. Wristwatches contradicted wall clocks. Phone screens spun through impossible hours. Morning and night lost meaning. Some swore the windows, those once blank walls, showed brief flashes of sky or city lights, but only when no one else watched. A man claimed he glimpsed his own face staring back from the surface. Eyes open in silent scream. Sounds grew stranger. Low vibrations throbbed beneath the floors like a hidden engine or a slow heartbeat. At times, faint whispers threaded through the air ducts. Never words, just soft sibilants that raised goose flesh. Others reported hearing their names called from empty hallways. A maintenance worker chased the voice of his deceased brother through 3 floors. Before collapsing in terror, objects shifted when left alone. A chair slid from one side of the lobby to the other while an entire group watched in stunned silence. Cans of food relocated from locked cupboards. Someone's sleeping bag vanished and reappeared, draped over a railing 10 feet above the ground. No one admitted moving anything. The building's temperature followed no logic. One moment the air chilled enough to fog breath. The next it pressed hot and heavy, like a furnace breathing. Metal handrails burned to the touch, then iced over seconds later. Skin prickled with sudden static shocks as if the walls carried a hidden current. These distortions gnawed at sanity. Residents argued about what was real. Some believed the building had become a living organism, reshaping itself with each heartbeat. Others whispered about a pocket dimension, a rift in time. A few prayed aloud, voices quivering, begging a silent heaven for release. Sleep became a gamble. Those who closed their eyes risked waking in unfamiliar rooms, separated from loved ones. A mother found her child asleep in the basement laundry, despite never leaving her side. No one could explain how. By now, escape no longer meant breaking walls. It meant surviving a place that rewrote reality itself. The building had ceased to be a structure of brick and steel. It was an intelligence, a labyrinth that shifted with their fear, an unseen mind bending every corner, every second, until truth itself dissolved. By what they guessed was the 6th day, exhaustion ruled every face. Hunger clawed at stomachs, lips cracked from thirst, and eyes burned from sleepless nights. Yet a single spark of defiance remained, a faint vibration, different from the usual heartbeat hum, shook the basement floor at dawn. It carried a rhythm, almost like a summons. Desperation turned it into a map. A small group volunteered to follow the sound. Others stayed behind, too weak or too frightened to move. Flashlights wavered through corridors that no longer matched memory. Numbers on apartment doors swirled and blurred as if painted on water. The deeper they descended, the stronger the pulse became, until they reached a steel door no blueprint had ever shown. It stood in a section of wall they had hammered a dozen times before, now split by a single vertical seam. The door responded to touch, skin against metal. It warmed beneath their palms, then slid open with a hiss that smelled of rain and rust. Inside lay a chamber of stone and shadow. At its center pulsed a dark sphere, slick and alive, beating like a colossal heart. Each throb echoed through bone and mind. One man stepped closer. Whispers bloomed soft as breath, promising release, promising light beyond the walls. Another voice inside their heads warned them back. The air thickened. Floors trembled. The building itself seemed to tighten, as though drawing a final breath. Choices fractured the group. Some wanted to touch the sphere to bargain for freedom. Others screamed to flee. The argument ignited into shoves and fists. A woman stumbled forward, hand grazing the surface. The sphere shuddered, expanding in a blinding flash. A roar filled the chamber. Walls buckled, corridors twisted. Reality itself seemed to peel like wet paper. For an instant they glimpsed a vast void, endless and cold, as if the building floated outside time. Then silence. When the light died, the sphere was gone. The door behind them had vanished too. They stood in a space without ceiling or floor, only endless gray stretching into nothing. Some wept, some laughed, broken and hollow. Back in the lobby, those who had stayed behind heard a single distant sound. A door creaking open. They rushed toward it and found nothing. No opening. No rescuers, only the echo of freedom fading into the hum of the living walls. Whether anyone truly escaped remains unknown. Perhaps the explorers stepped through to another world. Perhaps the building consumed them, sealing their memories with the rest. What is certain is this. The structure still stands silent and waiting. Doors and windows erased, a monument to hunger and fear. And if you listen closely on a still night, you might hear a low, steady heartbeat beneath the concrete, an invitation to enter and never return.